In a world where the economy grows faster than ever, why do most people remain financially fragile? This episode exposes the illusion of wealth, the psychological, corporate, and economic forces that keep the majority stuck in cycles of spending, distraction, and dependence. This is not a motivational speech. This is a breakdown of the architecture of modern financial behavior. If you're ready to see through the illusion and begin designing a financial life built on ownership instead of appearances, this episode is for you. You've just stepped outside the illusion. Now step into clarity. And if this perspective cut through the noise, subscribe to the Shadow Economics, where perception becomes leverage and knowledge becomes capital. Because in a world built on financial theater, the mind that sees the system is the mind that escapes it. The Shadow Economics. Understand the design before it designs you. Most people stay broke because they chase the image of wealth, while the wealthy chase the structure that creates it. We live in an age where wealth is louder than ever, yet more fragile than it has ever been. Every device in your hand whispers that the world is advancing, that opportunities are multiplying, that prosperity is expanding like a rising tide. But tides don't lift everything. They also pull things under. And the truth, unfiltered and untouched by sentiment, is that most people drown in an economy that keeps getting stronger. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack effort, but because they have been trained systematically, deliberately, and quietly to mistake the appearance of wealth for the substance of it. People don't chase wealth anymore. They chase the simulation of wealth, the impression of progress, the curated image of success that costs far less to manufacture than the real thing, yet extracts far more from those who pursue it. And corporations, governments, financial institutions, they understand this at a level the average individual never even considers. Most people don't stay broke because they fail. They stay broke because the system profits more from a population that mistakes activity for advancement and aesthetics for achievement. The illusion of wealth is not a single deception. It is an ecosystem of psychological triggers, status cues, emotional appetites, and behavioral defaults designed to keep the average person participating in the economy without ever truly benefiting from it. The economy grows, yes, but your wallet doesn't, because you are taught to consume the growth, not capture it. The illusion begins early. You are raised to value the symbols of prosperity, new devices, branded fashion, upgraded lifestyles, yet never taught the mechanisms that actually produce financial stability. You learn the price of everything, but the cost of nothing. You treat money like oxygen, something you assume will be there simply because you need it. But money has never worked that way. Money is not given, it is positioned for. It is created through leverage, ownership, and structure. And those who understand this quietly expand their influence, while those who don't keep performing the rituals of wealth without ever securing its foundation. It is fascinating, almost elegant, how predictable human financial behavior is. You can watch someone increase their income and simultaneously increase their liabilities at the same pace. You can watch someone celebrate a raise with purchases that erase its impact. You can watch entire populations compete for lifestyles they cannot sustain because they are conditioned to associate financial growth with financial expression. They don't ask, how do I use this surplus to build a system? They ask, how do I use this surplus to signal improvement? And so the improvement becomes cosmetic, temporary, hollow. The illusion of wealth thrives on this cycle. Earn more, spend more, display more, stay the same. But let's step away from the individual for a moment. Look at the architecture around them. The economy is designed to encourage consumption because consumption is immediate and reliable. Wealth building, on the other hand, is delayed and independent. It moves people out of the system instead of deeper into it. A population that builds wealth becomes selective, strategic, and harder to manipulate. A population that merely performs wealth is infinitely easier to guide. So, the world incentivizes the illusion: credit over cash, financing over saving, short-term gratification over long-term positioning. You are praised for spending and questioned for withholding. If you drive a car you cannot afford, society applauds. If you quietly accumulate assets no one sees, society shrugs. Not because people are shallow, but because the script they follow was never written to reward financial independence. It was written to reward economic participation. Consider how the average person thinks about money. They believe income is wealth. They believe a high salary is success. They believe busyness equals productivity. They believe visible lifestyle changes are proof of advancement. These beliefs do not come from observation. They come from conditioned. And conditioned behavior is easy to predict and even easier to monetize. Most people stay broke in a growing economy because they only engage with wealth on the surface level. They believe the economy exists to support them, when in reality, they exist to support the economy. A growing economy is not a sign that people are getting richer. It is a sign that people are consuming more, borrowing more, spending more, and participating more aggressively in systems that convert their habits into profit for entities far larger than themselves. It is almost paradoxical. The more options people are given, the more trapped they become. Infinite spending choices, infinite subscription models, infinite financing plans, infinite ways to convert every dollar earned into a dollar relinquished. The abundance feels like freedom, but freedom is never measured by the number of choices you can make. It is measured by the number of choices you can resist. And most people resist nothing because they were never taught to. Modern society has perfected the art of providing people everything except discipline. Yet discipline is the sole ingredient that separates those who rise from those who drift. And drifting is the default state of the illusion. A drifting mind spends reactively. A drifting life upgrades prematurely. A drifting household believes comfort today is more important than control tomorrow. And this is why the gap widens, even as the economy grows. The economy expands through discipline at the top and impulsivity at the bottom. Now, imagine this dynamic scaled across millions of people, an entire population performing wealth instead of building it, an entire consumer base chasing validation instead of value, an entire workforce mistaking higher income for higher security. The system thrives, corporations expand, markets grow, GDP rises, but the average person is no closer to freedom. They might earn more, but they also owe more. They might consume more, but they also depend more. They might feel wealthier, but they own nothing that compounds. This is the illusion. A world where progress is visible, but not transferable. Where wealth appears accessible, but remains evasive. Where individuals feel richer while becoming structurally poorer. And it continues because the illusion is comforting. It provides identity. It provides belonging. It provides the soothing narrative that everyone is doing better, even when most are simply doing more. You never truly escape the illusion until you understand this. Wealth is quiet, slow, compounding, and often invisible. The illusion of wealth is loud, fast, performative, and immediately gratifying. One builds, the other consumes. One strengthens, the other decorates. One sets you free, the other keeps you compliant. And compliance, in an expanding economy, is the most profitable commodity of all. The illusion of wealth thrives because people measure their financial lives horizontally instead of vertically. They compare themselves to those beside them, not the trajectory ahead of them. A new phone feels affordable if everyone around you has it. A car loan feels normal if your peers have one too. A vacation on credit feels justified if it looks like the rest of the world is doing the same. People become financially stagnant, not because they reach beyond their means, but because they reach toward the same illusions as everyone else. When everyone is drifting toward the same mirage, the movement feels like progress. But illusions are fragile. They can be shaken by a recession, shattered by a job loss, exposed by a single financial emergency. It is in those moments that people realize how thin the veneer is. They discover that their lifestyle is a structure held together by assumptions, not assets. They discover that stability built on income alone dissolves the moment income stops. They discover that comfort without ownership is nothing more than a rented illusion, one that belongs to someone else, paid for monthly, and reclaimed without hesitation the moment the money slows. The growing economy does not protect the average person from these truths. In fact, it exacerbates them. As the system expands, so does its appetite. It rewards those who build wealth quietly and extracts from those who chase it loudly. It accelerates the rise of those who understand the game and amplifies the vulnerability of those who mistake participation for progress. People often say, the rich get richer, but they misunderstand why. The wealthy get richer because they play the game at the structural level. Everyone else plays at the emotional level. One side uses systems, equity, ownership, leverage, capital. The other side uses feelings, validation, convenience, status, escape. Systems compound, feelings fluctuate. And when these two forces collide, the outcome is predictable. Structure dominates emotion every time. In a growing economy, this divergence becomes even more extreme. Opportunities multiply, but so do distractions. Wealth accelerates, but so does consumer appetite. The tools to build financial power become more accessible, but the psychological noise becomes louder. People have never had more access to information, yet they have never been more overwhelmed. They have never had more opportunities to create wealth, yet they have never been more conditioned to consume it. This is the paradox of abundance. When everything is available, clarity disappears. When clarity disappears, discipline erodes. And when discipline erodes, the illusion of wealth becomes irresistible. Consider how money behaves when it enters the hands of someone unprepared. It moves outward immediately. Money in, money out. Money earned, money displayed. Money gained, money upgraded. They treat income as a signal to expand their lifestyle, not secure their foundation. And the system notices. It adapts. It creates new ways for them to convert cash into liability. Faster shipping, easier financing. One-click purchases. Subscription models that slowly drain them, requiring nothing but their inattention. The most dangerous expense is not the large one, it is the small recurring one. The one that quietly extracts value every month, concealed beneath its convenience. The average person believes they are in control because they see every transaction. But what they fail to see is the pattern, the automation, the ritual, financial erosion disguised as routine. People do not stay broke because they spend irrationally. They stay broke because they spend automatically. Modern life is engineered for automation. Automated income withholding, Automated bills, automated renewals, automated spending flows triggered by boredom, fatigue, or emotional exhaustion. Automation is efficient, yes, but it is also dangerous, because anything that becomes habitual becomes invisible, and anything invisible can be exploited without resistance. But there is a darker layer still, one most people never detect. The illusion of wealth is reinforced not just through consumption, but through emotional calibration. People are not driven by what they lack. They are driven by what they believe others expect from them. Social pressure has always existed, but modern technology amplifies it. Digital platforms create artificial norms. They broadcast curated lifestyles. They distort reality into a highlight reel. And people internalize the pressure to keep up, not realizing that the images they follow were never real to begin with. Comparison becomes a financial decision. Envy becomes an economic catalyst. Insecurity becomes a corporate revenue stream. The illusion of wealth thrives on these emotional vulnerabilities. It doesn't need to convince you to want more. There is also a cultural component that reinforces the illusion. Modern society celebrates the appearance of success far more than the mechanics of it. A person driving a luxury car is praised even if they are drowning in debt. A person quietly accumulating assets is ignored even if they are on the path to financial freedom. We have inverted the signals. We reward the costume, not the competence. The act, not the architecture. This misalignment is costly. People structure their financial decisions around applause instead of advantage. They buy what brings attention, not what builds leverage. They pursue lifestyles that elevate their perceived status, but diminish their real stability. They seek validation from people who are just as lost in the illusion as they are. And all the while, the economy expands. Make no mistake, growth is not an accident. Corporations need you to participate. Banks need you to borrow. Platforms need you to engage. Governments need you to consume, to spend, to circulate money like blood. The system is not malicious. It is efficient. It does what it was designed to do: convert human behavior into economic output. But that efficiency has a cost. A growing economy does not guarantee a growing population of financially secure individuals. In fact, it often produces the opposite: a workforce that earns more, yet feels poorer. A generation that lives with unprecedented comfort, yet unprecedented fragility, and a society that mistakes financial activity for financial advancement. Most people stay broke in a growing economy because they do not understand the economic machine they are feeding. They measure progress by lifestyle inflation instead of asset accumulation. They treat rising income as rising wealth. They mistake participation for power, and power requires ownership, something the illusion of wealth ensures most people never pursue deeply enough to acquire. The illusion is not a trap you fall into. It is a trap you are raised inside. And the moment you begin to see it clearly, the illusion begins to weaken. The illusion of wealth persists because most people never question the framework they were handed. They inherit a script, engineered decades before they were born, a script built on employment, debt, and lifelong consumption. The system does not need to convince them to follow it. It only needs to ensure that alternatives feel unrealistic, unfamiliar, or inaccessible. Most people never learn the mechanics of money. They only learn the rituals around it. Work, earn, spend, repeat. The cycle becomes sacred. Any deviation feels like rebellion. From the first moment a person steps into adulthood, the illusion wraps itself around them slowly. Banks offer loans before they learn how interest works. Schools teach productivity before they teach financial autonomy. Corporations teach compliance before they teach negotiation. Society teaches people to aspire to comfort rather than control. Each lesson is subtle, but the consequence is profound. It creates a population trained to produce wealth, not accumulate it, to seek income, not ownership, to consume value, not create it. A growing economy amplifies this conditioning. It offers new services, new luxuries, new social expectations. The system evolves faster than the mind. What once felt extravagant becomes ordinary. What once felt unnecessary becomes required. People mistake expanding choice for expanding opportunity. They assume that because the world is offering more, they are gaining more. But choice without discipline is just distraction, packaged in abundance. And distraction is the most expensive currency in the modern economy. Consider the psychological environment people operate in daily. Their attention is pulled in every direction. Notifications, feeds, ads, updates. Each one is engineered to capture microseconds of thought. But the cost of attention is far greater than a moment of lost focus. Repeated fragmentation destroys the ability to think long-term. It erodes the mental structure required for wealth. You cannot build assets with a mind trained for instant gratification. You cannot compound anything, money, skill, discipline, when your attention resets every few minutes. This is not accidental. Distraction is profitable. A distracted consumer spends more. A distracted worker questions less. A distracted investor reacts emotionally. A distracted individual becomes predictable. And predictability is the most monetizable trait in the modern world. When behavior becomes predictable, it becomes programmable. And when behavior becomes programmable, the illusion of wealth becomes self-sustaining. But there is another layer, one far more uncomfortable. Most people do not want wealth. They want the feeling of wealth. They want the emotional warmth that comes from appearing successful. They want the sensation of progress without the sacrifice it requires. They want shortcuts disguised as strategies. They want low-risk, high-return fantasies packaged as inspiration. They want the aesthetic of wealth, not the architecture of it. This desire is exploited relentlessly. Every industry, from fashion to technology to finance, sells the same emotional promise. Buy this and you will feel closer to life you want. But the feeling is temporary. The cost is permanent. People chase momentary elevation at the expense of long-term stability. They buy symbols of achievement instead of building the substance behind them. And the economy grows. The greater the illusion, the greater the fuel. The system does not need to hide its mechanics. It only needs to ensure that most people never learn how to interpret them. Inflation, interest, leverage, capital markets, these are not secrets. They are simply irrelevant to a mind conditioned to live month to month. Knowledge becomes optional when survival becomes routine. People assume they are safe because the world around them feels functional. They assume they are stable because they can still participate. They assume they are progressing because the economy is expanding. But an expanding system reveals who is anchored and who is drifting. Those who stay broke drift. They move with the motion of the system instead of anchoring themselves within it. They confuse activity with advancement. They believe that because their income grows, their wealth must grow too. But income is not wealth. Income is potential. Wealth is structure. Income is motion. Wealth is momentum. Income is temporary. Wealth is transferable. The illusion ensures that people focus on the least durable part of the system, the part that evaporates the moment they stop working. And because the illusion feels familiar, comfortable, and socially reinforced, they never question it deeply enough to escape it. Those who do question it often face resistance, not from the system, but from the people trapped within it. When you begin to step out of the illusion, you expose the fragility of others' beliefs. They react defensively. They call you extreme, unrealistic, obsessive. They dismiss discipline because it threatens their comfort. They attack ambition because it highlights their stagnation. They resent financial independence because it forces them to confront their dependence. People do not merely stay broke because of corporations or markets or governments. They stay broke because the cost of breaking the illusion feels higher than the cost of living inside it. Change feels dangerous. Growth feels lonely. Wealth feels foreign. And anything foreign feels impossible. But impossibility is the final illusion. The system depends on the belief that financial transformation is rare. It depends on the idea that wealth is reserved for a select few. In reality, wealth is built on patterns, not privilege. On discipline, not luck. On clarity, not genius. But clarity requires silence. Discipline requires isolation. And patterns require patience. These are qualities the modern world aggressively erodes. This erosion is not malicious. It is mechanical. A growing economy is a hungry machine. It rewards those who understand its rules and consumes those who operate blindly. It offers opportunities, but it also amplifies vulnerabilities. It expands access, but it also magnifies mistakes. It elevates the informed and extracts from the uninformed. Most people stay broke, not because the economy is broken, but because their relationship with it is. They treat money as an event, not a process, as a destination, not a language, as a symbol, not a tool. And a tool misunderstood becomes a weapon, turned inward. Yet the illusion can be dissolved. It starts with recognition, with seeing the pattern behind the pattern, with stepping outside the rhythm that governs everyone else, with refusing to equate noise with value, with questioning the assumptions you were handed and replacing them with structures you design. Because the truth is simple. A growing economy does not build wealth for you. It simply magnifies who you already are. Most people stay broke not because they lack potential, but because they lack detachment. They are entangled in narratives designed to keep them predictable. They outsource their identity to external signals. They seek comfort in the same environment that exploits their impulses. They choose the illusion because the illusion feels familiar, and familiarity feels safe. But safety is not a feeling. It is a position. It comes from leverage, not lifestyle. From ownership, not appearances. From clarity, not comfort. A growing economy does not guarantee prosperity. It guarantees exposure. It reveals the difference between those who participate blindly and those who operate strategically, between those who drift and those who direct, between those who consume and those who compound. In the end, the illusion of wealth is sustained not by the system, but by the individual's unwillingness to step outside it. The moment you stop seeking validation, stop chasing signals, stop treating money emotionally, stop living as a participant, and begin acting as an architect, the illusion collapses. And when it collapses, the economy stops being a trap and becomes a tool. The growing economy will continue to expand. Most people will continue to fall behind, but not because wealth is inaccessible, because they remain loyal to the version of themselves the system prefers. Wealth requires a different loyalty, one directed inward, one anchored in discipline, clarity, and ownership. One forged not in the noise of the world, but in the silence of your decisions. That silence is where the illusion dies and where real wealth begins.